Well, now we turn to the Iowa Drought Monitor, which has revealed something we haven't seen in about 2 years. Earlier today, we spoke with Tim Hall with the Iowa DNR to find out just what's going on with our soil.
We're joined now by Tim Hall, Hydrology Resources Coordinator for the Iowa DNR. Tim, thank you so much for making time for us.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's start with what seems to me like a really big stat to say. 2 years, and it's the first time that there's nowhere in Iowa under extreme drought conditions. What does that mean?
It means we've had an exceptional turnaround in drought conditions over the last 6 months. We've had 5 of the last 7 months have been above normal for rainfall, and it looks like May is also going to come in above normal. So that would be 6 out of 8 months in a row of above normal rainfall, which we have not had in 4 years. So it's a very, very welcome turnaround in precipitation in the state.
We're talking statewide there, but as far as the northeastern part of Iowa and the southeastern parts that were really affected by drought, how are those looking?
Actually, the turnaround conditions has been fairly equally distributed around the state. In the past, we've had haves and have-nots around Iowa, but most of the return to really good precipitation has been fairly uniform across the state. So we're seeing a rebound in stream flow conditions that impacts most of the state. We've seen soil moisture improvement over most of the state. The areas of the state that were the driest are still lagging a little bit in the recovery, but that's to be expected because they were so far behind to begin with. But everybody's making considerable improvement in drought conditions.
I'm glad that you brought that up because we're not going to fix years of drought with one wet spring. So what does this mean for the future? I mean, if we have another dry year next year, or dry spring next year, does that erase all of this?
Well, certainly getting dry conditions could reverse the trend and we could slip back into drought conditions. But what we've seen is, particularly in northwest and southeast Iowa, those parts of the state are now completely drought free. And as conditions continue to improve, we'll see that drought erasure moving toward the center of the state. Along the edges of any drought designation, a dry month could drop that area back into drought. So it could come and go, but in general, the trend is toward gradual and consistent improvement. And that's really what we like to see, is a gradual improvement in conditions. We've had some minimal flooding in the state this year, and that's really phenomenal given the amount of rain we've had over the last few months. And it tells us how dry it's been. So steady, regular precipitation events have really improved conditions without flipping us over into flooding. So it's kind of where we want to be. Everybody's making an improvement in conditions, so it's kind of uniform across the state.
Well, before I let you go, I know you've got your eyes specifically on May through August. Why are those months so important to you?
Sure. So April, May, June, July, those are the 4 or 5 wettest months of the year in the state. Those are kind of make it or break it years for long-term precipitation in the state. So if we don't get good precipitation in those normally wet months, that can really set us back. So far, we're seeing a trend that we like to see. April was above normal. May is going to be above normal. If we can continue that normal to just above normal trend during the wet months of the year, I think we'll continue to be in really good shape.
Well, Tim, it's great to talk about good news with you. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
If you want to share this story or check out some of the stats that were mentioned, you can find the digital version on our website underneath the As Seen on TV tab.